Hey everyone, welcome back. I have with me today my friend and yours, Dr. Amelia Kelley.
Feel like you
Amelia,
needed to press a button here.
exactly.
Mhm.
We'll add that sound
Okay.
effect. Um, for those of you who don't know, how could you not?
Mhm.
Dr. Amelia Kelley is a trauma-informed therapist. She's a professor, TED speaker, author, and neurodiversity and mental health advocate, as well as the host of the Sensitivity Doctor podcast. Her work centers on relationship trauma and gaslighting recovery. We've done amazing episodes on that.
Mhm.
Supporting those impacted by emotional and psychological harm in rebuilding self trust, clarity, and nervous system stability. She's got over 20 years of clinical experience. And she's amazing. We could go on and on and on, but she's written a million books and been on the show a bunch of times. Um, Welcome back, Amelia.
Thanks for having me again. I was just saying to you when we were jumping on that it's fun when you get to podcast with a friend.
That's right. That's right.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we're gonna kind of divert from what we normally talk about. Well, we've talked
Mhm.
about a ton of different things, but
Mhm.
we're gonna kind of dip into the legal realm a little bit,
Mhm. Mhm.
but from the trauma-informed perspective, as always.
Mhm.
So, you messaged me a little while back about something that a study that was done in Kentucky.
Mhm.
You want to tell the audience a little bit about what that is and what it is that we're looking at today?
Sure. Yeah, and it's funny because when I sent it to you, I didn't know when this study had occurred. So when I dug into it more after we connected, I was pretty surprised and not for all the reasons we'll talk about today.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially it was a study exploring what the impact of the 50-50 rule is and has been on those in Kentucky, which is stating
50-50
that
custody, right? So,
custody
right.
rule.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, stating that essentially that's where the judge will start. So this doesn't mean it is indefinite, but what it is doing is it's demanding that in order to request further custody, you have to supply umpteenth amount of proof, which we all know, and we will definitely talk about how that is not always feasible or possible or easy or
Or safe.
even reasonable to expect.
Mm-hmm.
But what alarmed me and what made me think, oh, this is so a Kate Anthony topic, is that the article was almost celebrating the
Mm,
idea that suddenly divorce rates are dropping by 25% or more.
yes. Right.
And as soon as I read that, the little hairs on the back of my neck went up, and I felt a fear response,
Yeah.
thinking, oh no. If the reason people aren't divorcing is the fear of the child or their children being with their partner more, and that's keeping the divorce from happening, we have a conversation to have.
That's right. There's a huge problem here, right? They're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, look, when you get 50-50, people don't get divorced as often.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking that that's because, oh, I won't have to be away from the other one parent, the disenfranchised parent might feel that they're not going to be away from their child. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not quite sure what they thought or why they thought that was a good thing. I guess basically they just think that dropping divorce rates are good no matter what.
Right, and I think that's the dangerous part of some of the legal, the laws and the legislation that we've
Yeah.
seen is that it looks at things from a very black or white outcome lens.
Right. Right.
Right.
Oh, divorce
Mm-hmm.
rates are dropping. This is wonderful. We should keep
Mm-hmm.
doing this, as opposed to, well, why are they dropping? They're not dropping because people are happier in their marriages.
Right. Right. That's a very good point because I mean, honestly, I think there's a notion when we look at it's funny, I'm thinking like pro-life, pro-choice. I'm almost thinking pro-marriage, pro-choice,
Uh, uh-huh. Yes.
right? With this.
Yes.
So if we look at
Absolutely.
right, from a pro-marriage lens that doesn't allow for pro-choice within your marriage. I think there's this psychological notion that if you put enough potential roadblocks in the way, it
Yes.
will make the person spend more time,
Thinking about it. They'll
right,
think
as if they haven't
hard,
already thought about this for probably
as
years.
as if it was just a wild hair that they
Like,
got one day.
I'm going to do this
You know
weekend. It's been
what?
snowing a lot. I think I'm just going to file for divorce.
Right. They just got a bug up their ass, and
Hmm.
now we make it, oh, but you're going to get 50-50. You're not going to, it's not guaranteed that you're going to get more custody because you're the mom or whatever it is.
Hmm.
Oh, well, in that case, let me, never mind.
Yeah.
That's right.
Whoopsies. Right.
That's right. I think you're right. I think
Hmm.
they think that it forces you into deeper thought about it. When you
Hmm.
and I both know that what it's doing is forcing victims to
Hmm.
stay in
Yes.
unsafe marriages because
Hmm.
they are frightened of their children having to be
Right.
alone with their abuser 50% of the time.
I can literally think of a friend of mine who was gracious enough to let me feature her in my gaslighting recovery book,
Mhm.
anonymously, obviously,
Right.
and how she has literally said the reason that she has not followed through with fully divorcing, even though they're separated for all intents and purposes, is because of the fear of her children being with her alcoholic, emotionally abusive
Yeah.
partner more.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, it happens all the time. My clients struggle with this all the time. My listeners
Hmm.
struggle with this all the time.
Hmm.
Um, and so, and now, I think what you were saying is that, uh, I think before we hit record, is that a lot of other, so this is happening in Kentucky, like, okay, no surprise there,
Hmm.
but a bunch of other states are looking at this as a measure of success
Right.
that should be now be replicated.
Hmm. Which is scary.
Terrifying.
Hmm.
Terrifying. And then with no fault divorce being, one of the things that is outlined in 2025 that should Project 2025 that should definitely be eliminated.
Hmm.
Um, uh, we had a real problem on our
Hmm.
hands.
Now, can I ask you, because I was saying you're kind of the one that I was saying no pressure. You know all
Right.
about this stuff. In Project 2025, the no fault divorce, are they trying to make this federal or is this state by state? Like,
It
what
would
is
have to be
involved in
state by
that?
state, right? Well, no fault divorce was adopted by all states. So it is not a
Mm.
federal, it's not a federal thing. It would have to be
Hmm.
state by state.
Okay.
There are some low-hanging fruit states that,
Hmm.
would probably, Kentucky for one, some of
Hmm.
those southern, more, Christian right states, certainly states that would probably be more than happy to do it. But it is a state legislation. And so,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm frankly shocked it hasn't happened yet, but I think we've been a
Mm.
little bit distracted by all sorts of other stuff that they're doing that's
Hmm.
frankly
Hmm.
worse at this point. But so yeah, I do think it's a state thing and it would have to be rolled out state by state. And I
Hmm.
think they were starting to like test it, right? In
Mm.
like
How do you test
Florida,
it?
Texas, like just sort of like float the idea and see how it
Mm.
might. And again, I think, like you're saying, they're presenting it in a way that like makes it, they're trying to present it as something that's good, right?
Mm. Hmm.
You should have to definitely prove fault. And like if you do prove fault, like you're gonna win or whatever, except the reality, as you and I both know, is that proving fault is very difficult.
Right.
Proving fault as a woman in an
Hmm.
unjust,
Hmm.
often misogynist court system,
Hmm.
um, or let's just say system,
Yes.
um,
Full stop.
full stop, um, is even harder. And
Hmm.
so, we often don't. So, one of the things that, you and I were talking about with this whole 50-50 thing is, the burden of proof is on the
Hmm.
victim.
Right. Absolutely.
And what
And
does this do to them psychologically?
well, and it's interesting because looking at it from a trauma lens,
Right.
it makes me think about one of the reasons why trauma therapy is moving, and not to say cognitive therapy is not valid and doesn't have a very specific place in trauma work,
Hmm.
but a lot of trauma informed work, especially when you look at complex trauma, is getting closer and closer to what's called a bottom up approach, where you're looking at body's reaction to trauma. And
Yes.
one of the most important things I think of this body based bottom up approach is that you're not asking for explicit memories anymore. You're allowing the person who's trying to recover to only base their work and their healing on their implicit experience.
Mm.
So they don't have to prove anything even to the therapist. Because when we ask someone to come up with the details, to prove your story, to give me your explicit trauma timeline, sometimes that's easy enough to do. And most times it's not because of the way that trauma gets stored in our nervous system.
Right.
So if
Right.
we take this idea and we adopt it to, okay, so now everyone, I almost said ladies, but now everyone, you are here, you know you want to divorce, you feel like this is a dangerous situation, you feel like this is not the marriage for you. You've gone through the arduous task of coming to your watershed moment. And actually, I'm going to flip this and ask you a question real quick, Kate. What is I'm trying to remember because you put it in your book, what is the average time it takes someone to finally go from grievance to deciding that they're ready to divorce?
Well, I think it's the average is about
Hmm.
5 years.
Right. And yet we're
But
like, let's put another roadblock
right, exactly. And for victims, right, it takes an average
hmm
of, I think, 7 or 8 times
to leave.
to leave and stay gone,
Right.
right? 7 times of leaving and then going back, leaving, coming back. And so imagine what that's doing, right?
Right.
The psychological mind fuckery of that.
Right. So you have
Technical
all of
term.
that, right? Yeah, it is actually.
Yes.
Look it up.
It's in the
It's
DSM.
it's funny actually. This is really funny. I was reading this cute book called like the dictionary book or something to my kids this morning,
Okay.
and I looked at them and I go, "You guys don't even know what a dictionary is.
Yes.
You don't even know what it's like to have to like run your finger along the page and be like D-E, D-E-S, D-E, like to try to
Right.
find whatever word it is."
Exactly. They don't know
But
they don't know what a record is. They have to
mine do
like,
because we have a
oh, they
record
you have
player
a
in our
record
house.
player. Okay, good.
Yes, we're
Yes.
cool. But
Yeah.
but so to take all of that, this thought that as trauma therapists and trauma workers and healers, we're starting to recognize we have to stop asking for proof of trauma and we're having to say you don't even need to tell me your explicit memory and I believe you, I see you. But then we're saying, but in the rest of your life, in the court system, for example, in your marriage, what I'm trying to provide for you in the safe space doesn't apply out there. Out there, you need clear guidelines, which is why in all the gaslighting work I do say you are not crazy if you're keeping the receipts, if you're writing things, if you're keeping the text, if you're keeping a diary. It's not crazy, it's smart. It's a shame it has to be that way.
Absolutely. Right. And that's sort
Hmm.
of the difference also between coaching and therapy, right? Your
Hmm.
job is to help them do the bottom up. And
Hmm.
once they're doing that work, my job is to help
Hmm.
them with the strategy that
Yeah.
is documentation and like what matters for court, what doesn't matter for court, right? Like
Hmm.
all
Right.
of that stuff. But they
Hmm.
can't get there to the strategic thinking if they're still completely mired in the trauma.
100%.
Yeah.
A hundred
So
percent.
this is why, and again, an interdisciplinary team is so important. We
Mm-hmm.
need you to have a therapist and a coach and an
Mm-hmm.
attorney, right?
Mm-hmm.
Process everything with your therapist, a really good one who actually knows what they're doing, like
Right.
Amelia.
Oh, thanks.
Um, and then bring that to me.
Mm-hmm.
We work through that to create the strategy and the
Yes.
communication and what's important to bring to your attorney. And if that sounds like you're spending a lot of money, I promise it's going to save you a shit ton of money because your attorney isn't going to guide you that way at all.
That's such a good point because some will, I think, try to do some of what we can do, but not for the price we can do it. And also not
At
with
all.
the legitimacy. Like
Or
it's
right, or the training or the right,
right,
any of it. Exactly.
right. So if someone, I'm curious in your thoughts then, if someone is listening to us talking about this and they're in one of those states that has this rule or that might, hopefully not, but may end up having this rule, like what would you as a coach advise them to do? I
The
can't help
first,
but ask you questions on your own
I
podcast.
know. I I'm supposed to be asking you the questions. But
Sorry.
I would tell them, first of all, to make sure they have a really good therapist like you,
Hmm.
to help them process the trauma so that we can then get to the parts of their brain that we need for strategy.
Mm,
Um, and we would talk about like what's provable,
mm,
what is evidence.
mm-hmm.
Um, when we watch we've all seen Law and Order, we all watch, SVU, we know what is considered evidence in court.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs to be tangible. We need the screenshots. We need the downloads of the text messages. A lot of courts don't accept actually screenshots of text messages. There are apps that you can get that you
Really?
can download the history because they can be taken out of context, right?
Oh, I mean, that makes sense. That's a shame, though.
Yeah, right.
Because
But
when you're under
think about the
stress, like
chain of evidence,
right, I've
right?
never thought, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've done a screenshot of something because I have to remember it. To have an
Sure.
extra step when you're stressed out already, that's hard.
Yeah. Well, I would say screenshot it in the moment, but then when
Mm-hmm.
we're getting ready for court, we're going to want to have the evidence to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
This is the screenshot. Here is the download of the context, or this is how it,
Right.
came about. Um, a lot of documentation can be really hard for people that have, that are cognitively impaired due to trauma. Um,
Right. That makes sense.
Amy says is just the greatest tool.
Amy says,
It
okay.
is an AI platform specifically for domestic violence, victims of domestic abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And Anne Wintemute, the founder of it, was on the show for a second time very recently. And they have all these updates now, which if you have a membership and you're constantly uploading things, it will pull things out and sort and organize them for you.
That's amazing.
It's mind blowing. It's a game
Amy
changer.
says, Amy
A
says. I have to
I
remember
Yeah,
that.
it's
AI.
AIMEE.
Oh, that makes sense.
Amy, right.
AI.
Hmm.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah, very smart. Um, but it will store everything and create the documentation that you need, and creates even like little pie charts of like, this is how much financial abuse, this is how much
Wow.
emotional abuse. These are the examples, and it will plot them on a a timeline for you. I mean, it's
Okay, you're
unbelievable.
blowing my
I
mind
know.
because even just as a therapist who, like, I have a particular, actually, a man that I'm seeing as a client who is being emotionally abused by his wife. And he is really struggling and he's a veteran, he has a lot of PTSD. Like, it's just,
Yep. Really hard.
was abused as a baby, like,
Oh,
just really terrible stuff that is making it difficult for him to see what I'm seeing. And sometimes he'll come in with these text messages and these long litanies that he'll get from his wife. I bet you anything that would help.
Oh yeah,
Like
because he just uploads them
just
into
in the process of
Amy.
realizing you're in abuse, not even for
Well, it
court.
helps, yes, because what she does first is pulls it out and says, these are examples and this is why.
Oh,
Yes, it's
I need to
really,
talk to this woman.
oh yeah, she's amazing. I'll hook you guys up.
Thank you.
But anyway, so that's the kind of thing that I would help them with, right? Is like,
Hmm.
we've got to sort the boxes. We've got all of this emotional trauma. We've got all of
Hmm.
this financial abuse. Look, 99% of cases of domestic abuse, no matter what kind, 99% also involves some form of financial abuse. So
Wow.
we have to like sort through all of the boxes and
Hmm.
like, you know, and categorize them, which
Hmm.
is why Amy is such a great tool for it.
Hmm.
So then we can get a good view of like, okay, what is going to actually matter for court?
Hmm.
What do judges care about, right? Because if they're looking, for example, this 50-50 rule, right?
Hmm.
The fact that he yelled at you doesn't matter. The
True.
fact that he's abusing you for custody doesn't matter as far as
Really?
judges are concerned. If most judges are not trained in this, right? So they really feel like they're these siloed incidents. Like, well,
Even if the child is witnessing the
he
abuse?
abused you, but he didn't abuse. Yeah, because he wasn't abusing the child.
Oh, that makes me angry.
Yes, welcome to my entire life. Um, yeah, they consider it siloed because they're
That's
not.
crazy because that's the definition of PTSD is either being under threat yourself or witnessing someone under threat or even being aware of it, especially if it's someone that you care for.
Mhm.
That I'm gonna
Well, and so
drop. That is
here's,
so fucked up.
uh-huh.
I'm dropping the F-bomb
Oh,
this
I got
time.
Amelia cursing. This is great. But here's the thing, Amelia, right? Knowing this then
Mm-hmm.
means
Mm-hmm.
that we can begin to craft a case
Mm-hmm.
with evidence
Right.
supporting, such as the definition of PTSD. Your Honor, you might think that my children haven't been affected because I've been the one who's been abused.
Mm-hmm.
However, right, we can look at strategically how we build the
Mm-hmm.
case. If we know how they operate,
Right.
it informs us about how we need to operate.
Oh, that's like such a stress reliever when I think about, and it but kind of pulls it back to this burden of proof in the therapy room, in the trauma room,
Yes.
where we are learning and knowing that we have to stop asking survivors to give us their whole story, especially if they don't want to.
Yes.
And I will just sit with you and be here with you just because of your implicit experience. And now it's like then taking away this is where I feel like AI is very helpful because I think it's more hurtful to have another human tell you, no, no, that's not enough to validate any sort of abuse, but to have AI tell you based on what I know with all of this, that is not going to be helpful. Like I feel like that's a way where this is really actually positive for
Oh,
us.
oh, this is one of the things that Anne Wintemute, the founder
Hmm.
of Amy, says when we first met. We were talking about how this is like, she's like, I decided I wanted to put AI to use for good.
Yeah, well,
Right?
she
Because
definitely did.
she
Hmm.
100% did, and it continues to grow and become smarter and more like
Hmm.
useful as a tool. But um, I think it is important, right? Because while these things are awful and rage inducing,
Hmm.
once you know them, then you can strategize around them.
Right. Hmm.
I can then say, actually, Your Honor, here are the
Hmm.
studies that disprove, you know, here are the studies that prove what I'm saying, that my children actually have PTSD.
Hmm.
How they're exhibiting it. Here's
Hmm.
how, here's the diagnosis. Like maybe now I know that I need to get my kids in therapy to get a formal
Right.
diagnosis,
Hmm.
right? These are the kinds of things that we can do in strategy when we
Hmm.
know what we're dealing with.
Now, can I ask you a question? Not an interviewee question, a clarifying question.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I keep asking you because you're teaching me things today that I hadn't really realized. Um, when someone comes and they know this, does it have to be, quote, an expert witness that is sharing this? Like, does it have to be your therapist, or can you, as the victim, say these things for yourself?
Well, I think it's always better to have, either some
Mm-hmm.
documentation, whether it's from a therapist writing in saying, I've diagnosed the children and this is what I think.
Yeah.
Um, or or, here's a research paper on this.
Mm. So
Um,
who would have to present that? Would
well, I
it have to
suppose
be?
it would have to be your attorney or you like within,
Okay,
the
okay. So it doesn't
context of
have
your.
to be an expert witness then. It can be your attorney presenting on your behalf.
Sure, I think so. I mean, I'm not an
Yeah.
attorney and I don't go fight these cases in court, so
Yeah.
I don't quote me on
We
it.
can pretend
We
today.
can,
It's fine.
yes. Um,
Well, and the reason I ask as a therapist when I'm thinking about people in
yeah.
these 50-50 states who
Mhm.
are in these scenarios and maybe they're listening terrified because they haven't wanted to pull the trigger, but they think it's time.
Yes.
Sometimes there's this confusion of when is a good time to pull your therapist in and when is not a good time to pull your therapist in.
Yeah. Yes. And also, it may not be your therapist as the expert witness. There are expert witnesses, like, for example, Dr. Christine Cocciola,
Mm-hmm.
who will testify. She's a PhD in this shit, and
Mm-hmm.
she will testify in court
Mm-hmm.
that this is a thing, right?
Okay.
Whether she's worked with the family or not, you get, when you have an expert testimony, it is on the topic.
I love that. That's kind of interesting. The reason I'm asking is because we encounter this sometimes. I've encountered this where there is a little bit of a risk with
Mhm.
pulling your own therapist in because sometimes it can open up your records.
Right. And a lot of therapists
Right.
actually won't, right? So one of
Right.
the things that my clients who are in super like abusive, divorcing someone very abusive or malignant
Mm-hmm.
narcissist or whatever brand flavor they are, um, if they don't have a therapist for their child already, I do ask them to find somebody who is
Mm-hmm.
open to testifying.
It's
So
kind of good to
for the
know that up
children.
front because then they can be mindful of how they're writing their notes and what they're documenting. Still
Yep.
honest, but really, really working on unbiased
Well, and
work.
also,
Yeah.
I know that, in our family, we had a therapist, child therapist,
Mm-hmm.
who was working with our the child in this situation,
Mm-hmm.
um, who they were working together for a while, and then
Mm-hmm.
when we needed her to go to court and testify
Mm-hmm.
about his um, sort of, the impact that the other parent was having on him, she wouldn't do it.
Mm.
She said, I don't do
Yeah.
that. I do not, because she, didn't want to open it now. And it's a good thing, those are
Mm-hmm.
her boundaries, but we had to move and find another therapist,
Mm. It'd be
right?
good to know that up front.
Exactly, exactly. And then
Mm-hmm.
we found another therapist, and we found the reason why she didn't want to do it, which made perfect sense, is that the psychopath in question then at one point reported the new therapist
Mm-hmm.
to the board, like do the whole smeared campaign. I mean, she was
Mm.
100% cleared, but it
Mm-hmm.
cost her a lot of money in legal fees.
Yeah.
And she had to, and her insurance, I think, went up, things like that. Like she had to fight it hard because
Mm-hmm.
she was accused of all sorts of shit that everybody knew was bullshit, but she still had to fight
Mm-hmm.
it. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, that takes up a lot of time and energy.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, no, that's, I mean, I think what we're talking about even just makes me think of why putting more things in the way doesn't make sense when there's so many things already in the way
Yeah.
of figuring out where children are going to be, where they're the safest. And the interesting thing is none of this even takes into account the children's opinion, which is already so infuriating.
Well, and it's also, right, it's not fair necessarily to sit and ask a
Hmm.
4-year-old,
Right.
or even a 12-year-old, like, which parent
Hmm.
do you want to be with? Like,
Yeah.
don't make me talk about my other parent, like, then there's
Mm-hmm.
like all of this like bias and fear, and they're not necessarily the most reliable narrators of their
Mm-hmm. Of
experience at that
course.
point, right?
Mm-hmm.
um, which is part of the issue with guardians ad litem,
Mm-hmm.
where a lot of people are always asking me like, should I get a GAL? And I'm like, I don't know, because it can go both ways,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And your children have to feel okay disclosing their truth to a
Mm-hmm.
stranger.
Yeah. Especially, and considering that there's probably so many people involved at that point already, anyhow. So it's like just
Yeah,
one extra.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
Mm-hmm.
Amelia, from a therapeutic perspective, right? This
Mm-hmm.
whole like 50-50 mandate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
sort of like it's a presumption. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
presume 50-50 unless there is egregious evidence to the contrary.
Right.
And now I understand on the one hand, right? One of the things I have to say to women all the time is they're like, I don't want him to have 50-50, or I'm thinking that I might let him have 50-50, and I'm going, it's not yours to give. He
Mm.
is
Mm-hmm.
exactly as much of a parent as you are,
Mm-hmm.
with exactly the amount of legal rights that you have,
Mm-hmm.
unless we can prove otherwise. But
Right.
he is just as much of their parent, even if he hasn't acted like it, even all of the things. I get it. I
Mm-hmm.
get it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right. Um, but, from a trauma perspective,
Mm-hmm.
I think this notion of like protect, like we want to protect our children.
Mm-hmm.
And as a mother, someone hurts my kid or goes after my kid's in danger. I am on like, I'm not even on 11, right? I'm on like 6 billion.
Right.
Um, so what's happening
Mm-hmm.
from a therapeutic trauma perspective
Mm-hmm.
in that moment when
Mm-hmm.
someone says, well, you have to actually share your child equally with this person who's been abusing you?
Well, I think that is what we're seeing in the numbers, and it's freeze. I think I think
Yes.
what we tend to do first, right, is we notice, so we startle about any sort of trauma that's happening, and it is a pretty natural progression where we first try to move forward and act and do, and that's that fight mode that you and I actually chatted about in that one
We
episode.
sure did.
Right? So you've got this natural tendency normally when you feel a sense of empowerment to try to fight and do something.
Yes.
But after so much time, when our efforts go unnoticed, when they don't do anything, there's this I mean, some would call it learned helplessness, but I'm speaking on a fully nervous system level.
Yeah.
It will start to collapse and shut down. And I don't think that that just affects how you feel about the relationship. That will naturally affect how you feel about yourself, your self worth, your identity, your ability to speak up, your ability to set boundaries. And so, in my
Your
opinion,
own perspective, actually, too,
right,
right? There's the gaslighting
right,
involved. Yeah.
right, which we know makes you more susceptible to gaslighting and more susceptible to future further abuse. And so, in my opinion, we're saying as a society, we're trying, a lot of us are yelling about this, like, let's stop asking, why aren't you leaving? And let's start saying, like, what is it about the context of the scenario that's making it hard for you to leave?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
And so, as we reframe this, at the very same time, we have legislation happening that's doing the opposite. That's basically saying, we are going to facilitate a sense of learned helplessness. We're going to make you feel like your efforts are for naught, essentially.
Yes.
So I think it sends people into a freeze mode when what they actually need is to be able to fight and move and do things.
Right. Which brings us back to having a therapist that helps them process so that they can work with a coach
Mm-hmm.
to like strategize, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this
Mm-hmm.
is not it it is not it is not safe for women to, right? Because I would love to see the numbers in a few more years, the
Mm-hmm.
number of domestic homicides that
Mm-hmm.
increase, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
when we stay,
Right.
we're not safer,
What happens? Right.
right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, sometimes when we stay, we are safer than when we leave because the most dangerous time is when we leave.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean we're safe. So
Well,
I
and
would be,
also, I was just thinking of something about another statistic I've read recently
yeah.
about divorces that goes in the opposite direction, where they're saying that more women are facilitating divorce than ever before
Mhm.
because of the fact that we, for the most part, I mean, are becoming much more independent
Yep.
and financially secure and breadwinning, dare I say, and all of these things. What a weird term. I wish there was a better term than breadwinner. But like I get it.
Bring
I
home the
get it.
bacon, bacon bringer.
Yeah.
I'm the
Yeah,
bacon bringer.
although I'm pescatarian, so
Right.
bring home the fakin.
Bring
But
it.
but it's interesting because if we were going to get a little, I don't want to get super political on this, but if we look,
Amelia, we can because
okay.
I do, and they're used to it by now. So go
Okay.
for it.
So if we look at the different perspectives of, those who are leaning towards political decisions that increase independence, increase empowerment,
Mhm.
they're looking at statistics like more divorces being facilitated as a sign of things like financial health, independence, choice. And then you have the fear response of, well, we need to figure out how to muzzle that.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
And this is I've been talking about this a lot on the podcast and my Instagram that that as we have gained more choice and more autonomy, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have more choice because we're more financially independent, because we are by and large, more highly educated. All of these things. We
Mm-hmm.
are homeowners at higher rates. All of the things,
Mm-hmm.
the system,
Mm-hmm.
we're pushing against the system, and the system is saying, no, 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 no,
Right. This is a very,
no.
very effective way of saying no, 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 no.
That's right. It gets
Yeah.
louder and louder and louder. And,
Mm-hmm.
patriarchy says, oh, little ladies, oh, you don't want to do that. No, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, no,
Take another
no.
5 years to think about it.
Right. Yeah, little
Mm-hmm.
lady, are you sure that you know what you're actually doing here? I don't
Mm-hmm.
think so, right? I mean,
Yeah.
patriarchy gets loud when we push against, and this is, look, in a system, when there is a
Mm-hmm.
voice that has been suppressed or oppressed and it starts to get louder,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, it does get louder. That's what it does. And
Mm-hmm.
then when it's not, when it pushes against this is, our inner critics, right? They
Mm-hmm.
get louder and our whole system goes, shh, I don't want to hear what you have to say,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And so this is what happens in a system.
Mm-hmm. So I what would you love to see happen with this? Like I'm thinking like we definitely, I feel like, clarified for everyone what they should do. But what about the people who are making the decisions about this in the first place?
Uh-huh. Well, where do you want to begin? You mean people like the legislators and people who are making, well, I mean,
Yes.
yeah. Well, the first thing that has to happen is we have to vote them all out,
Mm, fair.
right?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so far tides are starting to shift. The
Mm-hmm.
old white dudes in power
Mm-hmm.
are making a fucking mess. And
Mm-hmm.
most people are, unfortunately, the mess they're making is big and loud and awful
Painfully
enough,
obvious, yes.
awful enough that people are now going, oh, wait a minute. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't mean, I didn't think you meant that. even though the
Mm-hmm.
rest of us were been screaming this since, 2015.
Right.
No, they mean it. They're saying it. They mean it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that those chickens are coming home to roost, and even people who have been supporters of, the parts of 20 Project 2025 that weren't quite
Mm-hmm.
too disgusting, or
Mm-hmm.
or that were, you know, voted one way because they thought it would be better for their pocketbooks, for their
Mm.
tax bracket, or that
Mm-hmm.
their grocery prices were going to come down, are waking up to
Mm-hmm.
realize that what we have been warning and ringing the bells about since 2015,
Mm-hmm.
is actually coming home to roost, is actually coming to fruition, and they're horrified. And
When
so,
you Well, I was going to say it's interesting too because when I think about all the things that you were just saying, and it's, all kind of leaning towards one party, obviously, there's also this family first kind of energy in the party that
it's
I feel
terrifying.
like, yeah, well, and I feel like if there was an awareness of celebrating non-traditional families, celebrating the fact that families don't have to look a certain way,
Uh-huh.
the this pressure, this muzzling wouldn't be needed as much, and we would have less traumatized children who would be less likely to grow up and become abusers themselves.
Mm. I mean, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And there's this whole like push of, I mean, it's no wonder that I think there are three. Who is it? I know it's Usha Vance and that god awful press secretary. I'm blocking her name. Oopsie. Sorry, my mother. Um, Usha Vance and that, what's her name, the terrible press secretary, and then somebody else, it might even be Stephen Miller's wife, are all pregnant at the same time, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
here we are, like, oh no, women should be, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're broodmares, right? Women should be
Mm-hmm.
home and pregnant, not
Mm-hmm.
all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have Erica Kirk talking about where women belong while she's taking over her husband's, you know, uh, whatever that is, company, federation, whatever that is. Um,
We will
right.
not define
Well,
it.
I don't even know. Exactly. Um, right. And like actually making, and very highly educated, right? Far
Mm-hmm.
more degrees than he ever had. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the irony is Usha Vance is an attorney. Like, what's
Mm.
happening? Right.
Mm-hmm.
But that 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 this is what they want us to do and be, and so they're modeling it even more so, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we are churning out more and more stifled,
Mm-hmm.
children into adulthood who are going to be more abusive because
Mm-hmm.
their entire, maybe they're gay but they can't come out. Whatever it is, right?
Right.
I'm not saying people who are gay and can't come out become abusers. That's not what I'm saying. But
Mm-hmm. People
whatever
who feel repressed.
whatever repression there
Mm-hmm.
is, emotional repression, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, if you think about the fact that even though the kids that we were saying it's safer to not put the burden of choice on them,
Yeah.
but when they see the parent who is championing for them,
Yep.
being supported by the system and being listened to, that teaches our children that they can trust
Yeah.
others to support them, that teaches
Right.
them that the world is a safe place.
Yes.
And so, even if in the end we're preventing the trauma of them having to speak up in a courtroom, we're still sending a message directly to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, something else that I think is really important is that we can't protect our children from everything. We
Hmm.
can't protect them from abuse, from harm, all of those things, but we can prepare them for how to
Mm,
deal with that when it comes to their doorstep. And
agreed.
so, we have to start having really difficult conversations with our kids about appropriate
Hmm.
behavior and how people make us
Hmm.
feel, and
Mm-hmm.
without throwing the other parent under the bus, but also without gaslighting them and naming
Right.
harm when it occurs, and then
Right.
helping them advocate for themselves when we can't do it for them, when we can't be
Mm-hmm.
there to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the notion that staying in a marriage to protect our children is better for them is not supported by research. It's not supported by the evidence.
Right. 100%.
Yeah,
It's much, much, as you've said before on your podcast, and I've heard you've spoken on this, and I know this, I've seen this, a healthier co-parenting situation where everyone is their best selves on their own is the best option.
right.
Right. As opposed to staying in an unhealthy dynamic where the kids are walking on eggshells and their nervous systems are being constantly rewoven with the trauma that they're around. It's just not the best option. And that, in my opinion, is what this whole 50-50 thing is going to create for our kids.
100%. And also,
Mhm.
also, we, children only need one parent
Yes.
to give them a safe, secure
Mm-hmm.
environment. It would be great if there were two, but if there's just
Mm-hmm.
one, it's okay. But
Mm-hmm.
when you stay in a toxic environment, there's only one environment and it's
Mm-hmm.
toxic.
Right. And the one parent who could have been the sole parent in a single family situation, if you're in that relationship still and you're walking on eggshells and you're trying to sustain because of the fear, you have to remember that you're not fully there. Like they're getting a percentage of you
Right.
as you are constantly navigating the trauma of trying to sustain this relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a somebody that I know who I would hesitate to call a colleague, but she has been a huge proponent of this 50-50 thing and actually like wrote books about it and has been
Mm-hmm.
pushing it so strongly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and started out, I thought, from kind of a feminist perspective, like we should work towards 50-50 because then it gives us the ability to restart our
Mm-hmm.
lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I agree with that in theory. I do think that 50-50, when safe for
Right.
children,
Mm-hmm.
uh, is great and beneficial for women restarting their lives
Right.
and right and being able to work and all of those
Mm-hmm.
things. But when it's not safe, like it should not be the default, especially when the greatest threat to women's lives is not cancer, not heart disease, but men.
Mm-hmm.
Violence against women is our number one cause of death. So why would we presuppose that
Mm-hmm.
this equal thing
Right.
is healthy, is correct?
I almost wonder if there's a way to marry the two where maybe to your colleague's point, 50-50 might be a fair starting ground, but we need a more seamless, supportive system for the proof aspect. For if you have a concern, there'd be a really easy, streamlined way to ask for a different type of
Sure.
custody. And
Yeah.
that therein, I think, is where the 50-50 piece could be helpful if it was, in fact, not asking someone to remember every single thing explicitly in a perfect timeline with a bow and seasoning on top and all the
Right.
things.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And
So hard.
also 50-50 is might be something to work towards, right? I
Mm-hmm.
always say like with younger children, we're going to drop a 2-year-old who has only been home with his mother into a 50-50 co-parenting situation. Are you nuts?
Oh yeah,
Like
that's
in what
hard.
world?
Yeah.
Right. We work
Mm-hmm.
towards it. We do a step-up plan, right?
Right. Good point.
You've got a parent who maybe, has been the default working parent and hasn't been around and doesn't know the routines. Maybe they,
Mm-hmm.
ease into it and learn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, right. But I love the idea that there would be a pathway for you to say, well, you could petition that, like, oh, actually, there's all these
Right.
things, there's all these reasons why not. But that would also require the judges and the family court professionals to be trained in recognizing all of these things that they're not trained to recognize
100%. Yeah. Hmm.
without putting the burden on the victim to present a perfect package of evidence, as you said.
Right.
Yep.
Hmm.
And the toll that that takes emotionally and psychologically, which is why they
Hmm.
need a good therapist like Amelia.
And Amy.
And
Amy? Is that the name of the app?
Amy says, yep,
Yep. Amy says that's what it is.
yep,
Mhm.
yep. And yeah, Amy's going to put me out of business.
Amy should sponsor this episode.
Amy, right? Amelia, thank you for bringing this topic to us. I think we'll
Definitely.
definitely keep an eye on it and see what other states are going to be doing because it really
Hmm.
is scary to think that more people are staying in marriages that are not healthy. Look, even if they're not
Hmm.
abusive, they're not happy and they're not
Yeah,
happy.
good point. Yeah, we've been talking about abuse this whole time. It doesn't even have to be abuse. It could just be you just are not your best selves when you're with each other. You're
Right.
not your best
My guess
example of who
though,
you want to be for your kids.
but my guess is that a threat of 50-50 isn't keeping those people
True.
in a marriage they don't want to be in.
True. True.
It's far more threatening when
Yes.
there's abuse, right? Um, and I yes, so I think we're going to keep our eyes on this and see how it unfolds. There's so much happening so quickly in our country, and
Yeah.
um, it seems that they've taken a break from some of the threats against women and are focusing them solely on immigrants.
You're right.
And but pretty soon, I think they will shift back,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just all bad. How about
Yeah.
that? That's a nice way to end. It's all bad.
But seeing you is good.
Thanks, Amelia. Where can everybody find you and your show and all that you do?
My website, ameliakelly.com, Kelly with an EY. I've got everything there. Links to trainings. I train a lot for PESI. I actually have a gaslighting and relationship recovery training coming out in February for all you CEU seekers.
Oh, good.
And but on there I have everything from my podcast connection, so sensitivity doctor. I've had Kate on there a handful of times. You are always welcome to come back.
Okay, anytime.
And
I'd love to have
yeah.
you.
And there you can find, things like my books. And I offer a lot of different resources like sensitive workplace checkups. If you want to find out if you're an HSP, a highly sensitive person, which I think you and I chat about in a
Oh
different
yeah.
episode, they can do an assessment there. Just lots of fun stuff. I wanted it to be like a place where you could hang out, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a lot of exciting things happening this year, and I'm trying. My motto this year, I have two New Year's resolutions. I'll end with this for fun, instead of everything being bad.
Great.
They have nothing to do with organization or weight loss. Number one, I guess one is kind of organization. Number one is to actually write who I'm talking to and the date on the top of the piece of paper when I'm jotting my random thoughts down.
Okay.
Well, like because forever I've just had random things and I don't know what it is. And number two is to keep up, not be ahead.
Keep up, not be ahead. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like
Yep.
those. I like that.
Hmm.
Striving for not mediocrity, uh, but just
Better nervous system. Better nervous system. I
yes.
think I was
Yeah.
always trying to use these false deadlines to keep myself going, which works when I have just enough on my plate, but I've got a lot. And
Yeah.
I was like, it's time to just keep up, get things done when they're due.
Yep.
I don't need to be 2 months ahead. I don't need to be a month ahead. I don't, it's
Right.
it's okay.
Good.
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah.
like
Jump
it.
over to our ADHD episode. You can learn
Oh,
all about it.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, we've talked about this a few times in a few different
Hmm.
formats. So
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Amelia, thank you so much as always for coming on. And everyone, you can find Dr. Amelia Kelley at, is it drameliakelly.com or just
Just
Amelia Kelley?
AmeliaKelly.com.
AmeliaKelley.com. It's Kelly with an EY
Hmm.
and all good stuff over there. Thanks, Amelia.
Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone.